What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We back for part 2 with the RC9 interviews. We have our guest is going to return back with us, Chanel Fields. We were just talking about just her life at this moment, and, you know, overcoming different childhood traumas and things of that nature, and how you know, it's making us who she is today. So we're going to get back into it. We're going to get her back in this conversation and get busy. Let's go. Part 2. We're back. We're back. We're back again.
Okay.
Welcome
I'm
back.
here.
Welcome back for part 2,
Thank
round
you.
2. Right?
Round 2. Ding, ding, ding,
Ding,
ding.
ding, ding. So thank you. It's all right for those who are checking in. Part 1 is uploaded on my Instagram page. Our C9 interviews will be uploaded on YouTube and in about an hour or so as well. So Chanel, let's get back into it. You were talking about bad relationships and how, you know, things that you went through from the rape from 11 years old to daddy, the abandonment issues. You know, find out your real father. We're talking about how it affected you as an adult. You know, being a new mom and everything. And you also left off about how you went to counseling as well. So
Yeah.
talk about the whole counseling, the process of even getting to counseling.
Okay, so I had been saying it like during marriage, like, you know, that I felt like I needed to go to counseling, but, you know, I was told that Black people pray
Right.
and that white people go to counseling.
Right.
So for a long time, I didn't go because I felt like, you know, if you needed to go to counseling, something's wrong with you and everything. But I really wanted to go. And I had mentioned it, you know, by that time, you know, when you got married, you had to go to church where your husband goes to church too. So I couldn't go back to like Gilmore. I could visit, but, you know, I really maritally, according to the church, you had to go where your husband was going. So, you know, I was affiliated with a different denomination at that time, which was Baptist, way more restricted than Pentecostal. I grew up Pentecostal, where, you know, they swing from the chandeliers, as they would say, you know, so it was much
Right,
more
they get it in.
restricted. Yeah, it was much more restricted and very strategic type of experience. And so for that reason, it was like, listen, now I really need counseling because, you know, this is just getting to be too much. And I started to attend the women's ministry at the church, at Great Chapel Baptist Church. Shout out to Great Chapel. But I started to attend the women's ministry there, and the women that were in the group really were like amazing. Like, they were absolutely amazing. And it was the first time, you know, I was 26. It was the first time I actually ever talked about rape openly. Like, you know, and I had to get it out. I felt like I had to get this out of me. I felt like I couldn't have healthy relationships until I get this off of my chest. Like, this was just a bit much now. Like, it was now I was ready to unpack this suitcase of trauma.
Right.
You know, because I felt like I had been running from it for so long because I had other things to deal with, like, you know, being a new mommy, being a new wife, being a new mom again to a second child, still not healing the child within me, you know. And it was like, well, when am I going to heal this child within me, you know? And I felt like this was a good time to try to heal my inner child. And so I started talking about it at the women's ministry, and, you know, everybody around me, they were very supportive, and I loved the way it felt. But that was only once every other month on a Saturday. So it was like, I need this a little bit more often, you know. And after I got divorced, I purposed in my heart, like, I'm going to get some counseling, and that, like, because I want to have better relationships. And you know, where most women will blame the guy, like, you know, he's terrible, he's negative, he cheated, he this and this and that. And, you know, we're quick to point the fingers at what the guy do, but we don't want to accept accountability and responsibility for our role in what caused that to happen, you know. And I'm a spade is a spade kind of person. I knew that I didn't want to be sexual with my husband. I knew that I was rejecting him. I knew that you know, that I wasn't really wanting to be a wife to him and do things that a wife is supposed to do. I didn't even understand marriage. I was too young to even understand the concept of marriage and the responsibility of marriage.
How old were you when you got married?
Um 19. I
You was
think I was
19.
19 when I got married. Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's really young. You're still a baby. You're a baby. You're a baby getting married then.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and so it was like seeing all of that stuff, unravel and unfold before my eyes. Our lives had changed. We were in college. Our lives were going in different directions. We weren't kids in love from high school anymore. A lot had changed. And when I saw the changes that were happening, it hurt because I was also losing my friend. He was still my friend. My husband was still my friend. And I'll never forget the day we actually got divorced. He was like, "Want to hang out?" And we went to like this wing spot,
Wait a minute.
and
So
we
wait a minute.
started
Real quick, for clarity purpose, the man you married, this is the father of your child,
second child. Mm-hmm.
of the second child.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. So wait a minute. Just you can continue the story. How old were you when you had the second child?
I was 20. Oh, you about to make me count my age. I was 23.
Oh,
23 when I had my.
but y'all were
Mm-hmm.
friends long before that.
No, we were married. We were married.
Okay.
We've been friends ever since we were younger. We've been
Right. Right.
friends since you know we were young, since we were kids, but like high school. So we always had a friendship from high school on. And because it started at friendship. He was the aggravating little brother. His sister was my friend, but he was the aggravating little brother that kind of grew on me and had like a lot of love for me and would do special things like write letters and press pennies and just buy me
Right.
Tasmanian devils. And he would go to my favorite muffin every day and buy me my favorite blueberry cream cheese muffin.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was the first person that showed some affection, and me longing for this kind of acceptance and affection. It was like, that's my buddy, that's my ace, that's my homie, like that's my friend. And so it seemed logical to be okay with getting married to him and things like that. But when it became a marriage, it was like, no, I don't want to do all that. I don't want to do none of that. I don't want to do none of that either. Like, and you really start understanding the call and you like, I'm not called for this. Not at this time, you
Wow.
know. And
That's when
so,
it started getting real for you.
right. And for him as well, because it was overwhelming for both of us. It was new to both of us. And I think if we had a clearer understanding of it, if we had waited some years, maybe we would have both, made it or whatever. But, God knows best. And
Right.
the day we divorced, we forged a friendship. We actually went to go hang out and we got wings and, we just made it a thing, like to go hang out and constantly get wings from, Sharky's or this place or that place.
Right.
And we begin to hang out. And like people are like, you guys are crazy. But we wanted to be great co-parents to our son. We wanted him to see
Right.
his mom and his dad, co-parenting well. And that went on for a while, but things changed. The game changed, new honey, new behavior. So
Right.
things changed in the game for him that affected myself, affected my son, and presented almost the same sort of generational curse
Mm.
around rejection, abandonment, those kind of things begin to happen, for my son.
Okay.
And it was like watching it happen all over again, but to someone else while I was still trying to heal me. So that's when I was like, you know what?
Right.
It is time to go to counseling because I can't heal anybody else until I get healed. Like, so I gotta figure me out. I can't help my baby unless I help myself. So I gotta go help me out in order to be there for my children to help them out, with their absentee parent. So that's how that went. And
Wow.
that's why I got into counseling. Mhm.
Wow. So you have all that going on. I mean, it's like you're healing. Like now you attending. You said the counseling helped you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You still
It
there?
did because,
Okay.
yeah, I'm still here. The counseling helped in such a beautiful way because, like I said, it started with the women's ministry. And from there, I went to this Christian counseling place. I forget the name of it, but it was in Hawthorne, New Jersey. And a friend of mine's from church. I had, once I got divorced, I left that particular church at the time, and I just affiliated with another ministry. And when I got affiliated with that particular ministry, one of what I call my church siblings, because the people I know from church, we so from kids, I call them my church siblings because I see them more like my brothers and sisters for real. And one of my church siblings, she reached out to me, and I started to just unload on her and tell her what I was going through. And she was like, I got a place for you to go to. She never said she was a client. She just was like, I got a place that we can go to. And she took me there, but she knew everybody by name. And I was like, wait a minute, you go there? Like you got problems? Like you got issues? So, and she was like, yeah, I told you I knew a place. And so she just sat with me through the entire counseling session as a wonderful support system. And I just unloaded. I unloaded as if I had unloaded like all your suitcases. You know how you go to your grandmother's house and you just plop
That's
everything?
right.
Like I just unloaded, and that was my first time feeling like relieved. After like one session, I felt like I could breathe, and I wanted to breathe like that more often. So I couldn't wait to get back to I could be heard. And so I could, more than being heard, I wanted to know now, what do we do? Like, what's the solution? Because I held all of this in, not knowing the solution. What's the solution? Because I want to heal, at the end of the day. What's the solution? And so I started going to counseling and, just getting different advice, using my own critical thinking and just really immersing myself in for the first time with what would be my relationship with God. Because, I had an introduction to God as a child, and I thought I had a relationship with him, but I had not had an encounter, with God until much later in life. And so when I had that encounter with God, like I wanted to deepen my relationship, with him. And like I really took my relationship seriously with God. Before it was more like a routine of what your parents put you in. But this was the first time that it was my choice. Like, I yield. I want to be, I want to be more like you, And
So it was good that you had that foundation.
mm-hmm.
Coming up to church, and we always say God works in mysterious ways. Because if it wasn't for that foundation and that faith and that word being in you, like what would you have to lean back on? Because a lot of people going through things that you went through lean to being very promiscuous on drugs or drinking or whatever else. Some people just mad and out gang banging and everything. It could be
Right.
a lot of ill things we can get into. But you had that it said what is the scripture talking about? It says train up a child in the way he should go. And when they go old, they won't depart from it.
They won't depart from it. You got to come back.
Right.
Eventually got to come back.
He said, Lord, is that you? I need you
Yep.
now.
Yep. Yeah, I got back. And things got better. Things got better. And I learned to be, for the first time in my life, I learned to be okay with being alone. I didn't feel like I needed somebody to complete me. Like I felt complete, and I no longer looked for a reason to be happy because now I was happy. I just needed to find the IER. I wanted to be happier. That's it. Yeah. I needed my compliment. You know what I'm saying? So, that's where it went for me. It was like a new level for me. I no longer sought out someone to complete me because I felt complete. But at first, like without a man, without any of that, it was like, yo, I got my family, I got my mind regulated, my heart is good. Like I feel free, like I feel good. So I started branching out and just getting involved in other things. Like I really took the initiative. I had like some little bad neighbors, that lived by me that started off bullying my kids. And, I'm old school, and I thought everybody else was still old school then. And one day I came next door. My son was attending school 26. And this little kid that kept bothering him, just kept bothering my son. I was like, yo, what's up with this little kid, man? Like, he won't leave my son alone, knocks his glasses off, he takes his book bag. And so I came next door and I spanked the little kid, like old school with a belt, wore him out. I mean, wore him out. I didn't care who his mama and his daddy was. Anybody that know me know, they'll tell you I wore him out. You
Oh,
know, and
serious?
him and my son became great friends, great friends. And the mother said she had 6 other kids. She said, "Thank you." That's what she said. "Thank you for beating him because I can't do nothing with him."
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so what happened was he got invited to come over to my house. I think they had Sega Genesis and GameCube at the time. He didn't have those things at his house. You know, they were not as fortunate as my children to have like all these amenities. And so he would ask, can he come to my house? And that's how they formed a friendship. So he came to my house and he would see my son would have like haircuts. And he was like, I want my haircut, but my parents don't really get my haircut. So I got his haircut. Beginning of ministry, right? I didn't
Right.
even know. I got his haircut. And you know, in the summertime, he was getting ready to head back to school. Summer was coming to a close.
Okay.
He said, me and my brothers need book bags, and my parents can't get us a book bag. So
Mm,
there go the birth of the book bag ministry started. I
right.
said, I'll get you a book bag, you know, but God was at work and I didn't even realize that. I'll get you a book bag. So I bought 2 book bags, one for him, one for his brother. I ain't think nothing of it. I was just being a good Samaritan. I felt like I'm blessed, so let me be a blessing. And we
Right.
ain't missing nothing. You
Right.
know, nothing broken here. So it was like, okay, cool. So, you know, this kid, he started to gravitate to me and he started telling other bad kids at the school about me.
Really?
Like, you know, Amir's mom is great, yo. She feeds you, she could cook, she make Rice Krispie treats. Ain't nobody mother was making jello molds and Rice Krispie treats. You know, that come from Saddlebrook living. But
This is
I was up there making, jello molds and Rice Krispie
uh-huh.
treats. So, you know, you got the good mom, you know, y'all got real food. So, you know, the word started to get around the neighborhood and my house started to fill up with a lot of kids
Wow.
that were latchkey kids, you know, that really needed some love, you know. And I looked at these kids and every kid I saw a little piece of myself, a little fabric of me that hurt, a little piece of the voids that was starting to fill up, you know, as part of the weaving into part of my destiny, you know. And they're like, oh, Miss Fields, you know, we need clothes, we need this, we need that. And
Wow.
you know, so I would buy clothes, you know, if they needed clothes. I would buy, you know, book bags if they needed book bags, whatever I could do to help the parent. I was like, oh, so I get it. They acting out because they don't have what they need. I'm like, all right, cool. And once they got what they needed, you know, kids are good. They just wanted to know, like, you love them, like you care for them, you there for them and everything like that. And so pretty soon in the summer times, the boys, I had like a house full of young boys and my 2 sons. And so I would take everybody, let's go get your hair cut. Everybody getting their hair cut. They all fly for back to school. They checking each other out. Man, look at your cut. Look at my
Wow.
fade. You know, so now everybody the boys had all, you know, had book bags. They had haircuts. They had a couple of outfits, you know, and things like that. And it wasn't a lot of kids. It was 9 boys, you know, and it was like that became the regular thing every single year. I didn't call it like a book bag giveaway or nothing like that. It was just more or less like people blessing people. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Just being there for my neighbors. And it began to expand because one of the mothers said to another mother that had kids, she had daughters and sons. She said, I don't know if she'll do it for you, but she did it for me and so, but she may get your kid a book bag. And the birth of the book bag thing started there. I said, you know what? Every year I'm gonna donate like 20 book bags. That was like my thing. And but little did I know the number got bigger and
So,
bigger
so
and
what?
bigger.
So what happened when you know when you that one individual child that you like really took under your wing and showed that love and showed that compassion to, it wound up being a ripple effect. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was a need for it. So there was like a group. It was not only him, but he had a whole community of people just like him that needed that
Hmm.
love, that was trying to fill up that void. And I'm thinking about the story, and it's almost correlated to things that you went through, how you were uh, getting a little bit of this, a little bit of that for certain relationships, and you were filling up that void. It was a need for it.
Right.
And so you were able to connect and identify with them, that brokenness and that void, and you were able to fill that gap with compassion and love, which in turn it started rolling out, like you said, into your book ministry, that book bag ministry or whatever have you,
Hmm.
and start
Right.
start going like wildfire through the community at this point.
Right. Right. And then from there it branched out. It was like, oh, I know her, so now you forming ties within the community, relationship ties. You're not really thinking of it like that. So from there it was like I would notice like garbage on the street, and my mother always made us pick it up. I'm like, why are you making us pick it up in front of their house? Why they can't
Right.
pick up their own garbage in front of their house? And I used to get so upset with her for that. She's like, pick it up, pick it up. Go 3 houses to the left, 3 houses around. I'm like, they can pick up their own garbage, so I used to get upset. But when I got older, that stayed with me in front of my own house. Like,
Right.
yo, I don't want no garbage to the left. I got it. I was like, I don't want no garbage to the left, no garbage to the right. And one day I just started picking up garbage throughout the neighborhood, like just grabbing the bags. I had a couple of bags stuck in my side, and I was like, I'm gonna pick up as many bags, as many as these bags can fill. I'm just gonna pick up the garbage, like, what I'm saying, clean up around my neighborhood. So I would just volunteer and constantly pick up garbage. And my older neighbors, I had a lot of elderly people that lived around me at the time. They would watch me in silence. I didn't really speak to people like that. I was friendly, but I wasn't social. I'm like a hermit crab. If you speak to me, I speak to you, but I ain't really, an initiator of conversation. But I wanted the neighborhood to be clean. So, they would watch me in action. Like, this is a young mother, what I'm saying? She do for the community. She picking up garbage. She keeping it clean. She not playing loud music. She ain't smoking. She ain't drinking. She about her business. Like, she all right. But they wanted to get to know me. But I always move in stealth. Either I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and that's just it. And so I continue to do that. And the word got around. Like, do you want to help? We doing an operation cleanup here. This is long before social media began. I was doing these kind of things within the community, just cleaning up. And so that was one side of it. And then after that, I belonged to my mother and her husband. They started a ministry, when she was a pastor, where they would go and minister to the elderly people, like the sick and the shut in. And they got the idea of going to like convalescent homes and places for the elderly that can't get out, rehab centers. They're never going to get back to church and stuff like that. So it was like, let's bring church to them. And I was like, that's fantastic. So I began to visit the hospital, the geriatric areas and stuff like that. And I began to visit people there who were like convalescent, the elderly and things like that. And I began to go on these adventures with my mom and her husband to meet these elderly people, to bring them glad tidings and stuff like that. So that side came out. And then, I would meet their families that would come and visit them. Like, yo, who is this girl? Like, so that was a whole nother compassion side coming through, a whole nother form of ministry, a whole nother form of relationship ties tying into who I was going to become. I didn't even know, but I
Wow.
was just,
So
I was just walking in purpose,
wow, you were just living your life. You said you wasn't looking for, and I believe that's why God has blessed you in such a way, because you wasn't a person that was looking for validation. You was doing it honestly. Everything you've done, from what we talked about, was out of the kindness in your own heart.
right?
You just did it because you felt the
I just
need.
wanted to help.
Yeah, you wanted to help.
Mm-hmm.
You felt the need, and you filled the need.
Mm-hmm.
One need, and you filled the need. And you've done a lot of amazing things. It's almost like I want to skip over what I was going to talk about, because we on this compassion vibe right now. But before we get into compassion, the vibe, further talking about compassion laws, I want to talk about your second book real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Your second book was the one about forgiveness. What's the title of that book?
That
The
is,
power of forgiveness.
mm-hmm.
So
The
so
power of forgiveness, matters of the heart.
power of
Uh-huh.
forgiveness in the matters of the heart. So talk about that real quick, because you've been through a lot of things where your heart could have been like just concrete, still hard. How did you get to the point? I know counsel helped. I know you have your relationship with God, but how did you finally get to the point of forgiving those who have wronged you, those who hurt you, those who you have trusted with your life, from 11 years old to 17 years old, so on and so forth? How did you tap into that forgiveness? Like the light bulb coming, like, you know what, it's time.
Oh my goodness. So, things happen in your life where you would like to believe you forgave certain things, until certain emotions trigger you,
Right.
and then you find out like whether you really forgave or not.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was always quick to forgive, to say like, don't worry about it, I forgive you, because I just wanted to move on. Like, I like to be at peace. I'm very zen, very peaceful, very calm. My atmosphere is very calm. Like, you know, anybody that knows me knows I'm just a chill person, and I just kind of stay in my zone. And I like it like that. You know, anything that disrupts the flow of that, I don't really want to be around. I don't want to entertain it. So if it's better, if it's easier for me to say I forgive you so that we can have peace and,
Right.
you know, keep moving. Hey, Akeem. If it's easier to have peace that way, then I'd much rather be at peace. So it was like, okay, cool, I'll just forgive. But what I realized was like some things, even though I said it in my heart, in my mind, I forgive you, my heart felt otherwise. And I wasn't really necessarily aware of that. Because at some point my heart just packed it in a suitcase. Like, all right, well, if her mind
Mm,
said it, then you know, we're gonna just go with that. But we're gonna revisit this at a later date. You
right.
know, and I'm thinking I'm running around happy go lucky, like I forgive everybody, you know, God is good, I forgive, you know. But the biggest challenge came when I was writing those books. And when I wrote If You Could Give It Up, You Can Have It All, it received such an overwhelming
Mm,
response, such a resounding response. And I learned two things with these books. People gravitate to pain.
yes.
And
It's a
the
common
first book
denominator.
did.
Everybody's no stranger to pain.
The first book was like a humongous success because there was so much pain embodied in it that people I believe can really relate to. And people started reaching out to me from all over the world. I had a lady reach out to me. I'll never forget one night. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning from Denver, Colorado. I had never met her. She had never met me, but her sister had my book. She had got it at a book signing in New Jersey, and she brought it out with her on her flight to go see her sister. And she got a hold of her sister's book. And she found me on Facebook, and she reached out to me, and she was like, you know, I was raped too, and I never talked about it with anybody, but I want to share my story with you. And we just talked throughout the night.
Right.
And she was like, how did you forgive? And you know, I began to talk to her and everything like that. And you know, it became a regular thing. It became so much of people constantly bombarding me with, how did you forgive? How did you forgive? How did you forgive? I want to forgive like you forgave. How did you forgive? And I was like, oh my God, like I did not sign up for this. Like this was the book was originally a memoir to my sons, and they
Really?
talked me into turning it into a book, yeah, for the public. But it was my letter to them because I thought I was out of here, and I really wanted them to have a full understanding of my story, my life for them.
Right. Right. Right.
And
From your mouth.
so, right. So when it became on display for the world, it was like, you know, people gonna ask questions, and you can't
Right.
shy away from them. And they had plenty of questions. It was like, how? And it got so bad that I was like, I'm nobody's healer. I'm nobody's counselor. You know, I started going through something. Like I started experiencing emotions that I never had before, and I was getting upset. Like I'm like, I'm none of that. Like don't, you know, I wouldn't say that to them. But it was like, why are they asking me? Please don't ask me. You know, it was like putting a lot of pressure on me.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to one of my mentors, Pastor Jay. I reached out to him, station with him that I was feeling from over from the responses of the book, and you know, prayed with me and everything. God is with you.
Can you hear
You
me?
know, trust God. Yeah, I can hear you.
I was breaking up a little bit. I don't know. It looked like kind of fuzzy.
You sound good. You hear me good?
Okay. Yeah, your sound was a little fuzzy. I don't know if Wi-Fi is on or off or if it's a connection.
Is it all right now?
Okay. I can hear you. Sound a little muffled, but I can hear you. But you can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
sure?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I reached out to him, and you know, he just encouraged me,
Mhm.
and to continue to pray. And that night, when I laid down to pray, I jumped up like out of my bed. It was almost as if I had to throw up, like, you know, and I like sat up out of the bed in a jolting way, and thoughts began to come to me, you know, as far as the power of forgiveness, like, you know, and I remember praying, and I was like, Lord, help me to love like you love. And
Mm.
I heard God like clearly tell me, you can't love like I love because you don't forgive like I forgive.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that was deep.
And I was like, oh wow, okay. And I was hurt. I
Right.
cried. I cried. I was like, Lord, I want to forgive like you forgive so I can learn how to love like you love.
Mm.
And that started with examining me, taking the mirror off of other people, because with the first book, I was really, I didn't realize it, but in the first book, I was real angry, you know, and it was like that first book, I went to go get the inner me. You know what I'm saying? And I had to make sure the enemy was healed, like completely healed. That 11-year-old, because what happens is, what we don't realize is the age that we get emotionally traumatized, we remain that age emotionally.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Physically, we got age 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years down the line. But if we never go capture what happened at 6,
That inner
if we
child.
never go capture what happened at 11, if we never go capture what happened at 15, or whatever age the trauma began in our life, we emotionally stay stagnant there at that age. So I had to heal that age. I had to heal 11. 11 had to be healed because 11 went through some things. You know what I'm saying? At age 11, I went through some things. At age 12, I went through some things. At age 17, I went through some things. You know, at age 26, I went through some things. So all the areas in me that were broken needed to heal, but it had to start with 11. And 11 was the age I was avoiding, because that's where the most pain was. That's the initiation of all the pain,
Wow.
began at 11. So I had to take the mirror off. Who did it? You know,
Right.
my mother, you know, because, you know, we do that. Like, we have a broken society out there, you know, that wants to blame people. Oh, they, you know, they hurt me when I was 12.
Right.
And you're like, you, bro, you 55 now. Like, you
Right.
you you still gonna hold that story? Like, you know, they ain't never do nothing for me, you know, my whole life. And I'm like, but you can still succeed. You got a new 24 hours each day. It's gonna be okay. You know, but they stay stuck. Hell, they stay stuck there and stagnant and refuse to grow, because the ideology of holding on to that emotional crutch that they've been allowed to hold on like a pacifier, they're
Right.
comfortable there. They know that place. They don't know how to get out of their brokenness and what that freedom and liberation is going to look like or feel like. So they get scared and fearful, and they stay stuck emotionally. So my first step was freeing myself emotionally, you know, learning how to walk away from
Right.
what hurt me, you know, and really heal 11. You know what I'm saying? And the 11-year-old in me was waiting. It was waiting to be free. We did a tour of this, is called No Longer Silent Monologues, not to get off topic,
Okay.
with Dr. Sharitha Webster. And we went all around, you know, doing this monologue thing. And it was during the monologue that I actually got free. I had already wrote
Really?
my
You said
book.
what was the name
Yeah.
of the monologue again?
No Longer Silent.
No longer silent.
No Longer Silent.
And you said it was at that moment you
We
actually got free. How old were you at that time?
This was in 2017. I
Okay.
was 40.
Okay.
And we began to do that. But for the first time, I never forget, we were at a rehearsal. And for the very first time, I think I struggled harder than the whole cast to do my monologue. And they were so supportive of me. But for the first time, I was able to vocalize what happened
Mm.
word for word from my diary, right? So
At 40 years old.
it, and yeah, and I'll never forget that day. We were in my cousin's house, and I was standing in the doorway. But as I heard myself recite my monologue, I really heard me go from 40 to 11. Like the
Mm.
pain, like my cousin Regina would tell you, there was not a dry eye in the room. Like they had to comfort me, and we had to comfort each other. But I heard me literally go from 40 to 11. I heard the way I wept, and it was like, it felt like almost out of body. But that healing had to come forth. It had to take place. I had to do that because I was never going to get free. I was never going to get free if I didn't release that day. When I did it that day, it, like, I felt good. I felt strength. Like they said, I feel my help. Like I felt some strength behind it, but still, You know, the wound was fresh. Now I'm open. Like I done open up this Pandora's box.
Right.
You can't control what comes out. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And so I was just in this space like of rawness.
Mm.
Like, okay, I let it out. It's out, you know. It feels good, but it feels scary. Like what now? You know? And so I begin to continue to address those issues of brokenness, you know, starting with the rape, starting with being ignored by my mom, starting with feeling abandoned and rejected, all those things. I was like, we tackling all of them. And it was hard because the current relationship what I was in, it suffered. That person you know, ended up breaking up and things like that because of the trauma, the emotional trauma. Like I couldn't deal with any more trauma in my life. I had to deal with 11, you know, and it was like, excuse me, I can't do this in a relationship. I have to get free,
Right.
period, you know. And so I started to assess myself
Okay.
spiritually, and I realized, like, you know, I got to let some things go. All of these things, the sickness I'm holding on to, you know, all of these things, I can't be free because all of my dis-ease has become disease.
Mm.
You know, and I'm like, the only way I'm going to get cured is if I heal. And the only way I'm going to heal is if I let it go. Because if I give it up, I can have it all.
Right.
I can have it all. But I can't have it all without the
Holding on all
power
this
of
extra
forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? I had to have forgiveness first. And I was wondering while I still didn't have it all. I had a lot, but and all doesn't mean like the Mercedes Benz. I want to be clear. It's not the house. It's not the American dream. All is simply peace of mind. You know, the freedom of having peace of mind, the freedom of walking in your calling, the freedom to just be. Because a lot of us haven't even given ourselves permission to
Right.
just be, you know. And it was it was almost, I felt like I was getting submerged, you know, like a baptism almost, like reborn, because 11 was free now, you know. And it was like, it was a beautiful thing because I had to give it up. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had to give up that pain. I had to give up the grudges. I had to give up the hurt. I had to give up the blame. I had to give up all of that. You know what I'm saying? And it was the most refreshing, most invigorating feeling I ever had in my life, was to let that stuff go. Like, let it go. We holding on to stuff for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, and you haven't let it go. And so that was the first step towards the power of forgiveness, was understanding what it meant to let go of those things. Stop blaming other people. Look at you. Look at what you become. Look at why you become this. Look at why you have allowed yourself to become this, because you had ample time to get free. Certain things we choose to hold on to,
Right.
you know. So, you know, you gotta, you know, remember that. But as far as the power of forgiveness, the next step, you know, from letting those things go, became assessing myself. You know, all the damage I caused as a result of being damaged, because we
So
not,
now,
you know,
now you look at
we not
yourself.
saints.
Like you gotta be
Yeah.
accountable now. It's like, let me look at myself. Look, see,
Right.
get
I
around.
made myself accountable. I
Right.
was like, you know, I ain't no angel. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what I've done, you know. And as a result, like, you know, I did a lot. Like I had, you know, I talk about it in Power of Forgiveness. You know, I had multiple abortions, you know, and I talk about one day where my heart stopped on the table.
Mm.
And while I was taking a life, God was giving me my life back.
Mm.
So at my guttermost, you know, he still was operating in his uttermost. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And
You better preach.
so
At
gracious,
my
so
guttermost, he was
gracious.
operating his uttermost.
Yes, he was so gracious and merciful at a moment where he should have snuffed me right on out. I'm taking life. I'm murdering on the table, and he giving me my life back, making sure my heart is still beating. I'm like, what a mighty God we serve.
What a mighty God we
You know
serve.
what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, and I started looking at me. You know what I'm saying? I started looking at the dirty dirt. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, like, I got some stuff with me. Like, you know, I'm sitting up here holding on to unforgiveness with this, holding on to forgive. I got some stuff with me. I need to first forgive myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like I had to start with me. I had to forgive all the filth, all the ugly, all the raggedy, you know, just everything. And I'm not saying like I was horrible, but I had some stuff with me. We
Right.
all got some, if we be honest, we got some
We
stuff with
all have
us.
stuff with us.
Yeah. And so, you know, I had to forgive those places because I kept feeling unworthy because of the filth. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, I gotta part ways with this. You know what I'm saying? I gotta walk in a new light. Like, you know, and I started seeing my life as on assignment, like never before. Like, yo, I'm not even here for me.
Right.
I'm here for the purpose of bringing others, you know, to the right place, you know. And so I continued this journey with the power of forgiveness, and people would constantly ask me, and I began to think about all the things that mounted up to forgiveness versus unforgiveness, and how we say, I forgive, but I don't forget.
Right.
There's no such thing. Once you've purposed in your heart to not forget, then you've also negated that entire apology. You killed the whole apology, because you can't forgive and say you're gonna, you know, you won't forget. You gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. And so I began to see forgiveness from so many different angles. I started to dream things about forgiveness. I started to dream things about unforgiveness, harboring unforgiveness. Like, it was literally like a tug of war. Every time I would go to sleep, like, God would wake me up with more. I'm like, could you chill, son? Like, you know, like, I want to go to sleep, you know, but I couldn't. And I ended up writing this book within 9 months to the date of the last book, 2 books in 1 year. You know, it was like the craziest thing. 9 months later, first book came out. 9 months later, this book was out. Like, it
Wow.
was
Just
that
birthing them back
fast.
to back.
It was, yes, it was like, it really was like literally giving birth with this book. And it was like the craziest thing, because I even get into, you know, like some of the titles and why with you. It was like
And this is
one of the
the power of
first.
forgiveness, right?
Right. And then one of the first chapters talks about how you cannot be allowed to skip the process of life struggles, you know, because we always want to get to the good part. We don't want to endure nothing. You know, we want to add and stir, you know, we want everything instant. And I talk about how you can't skip the you know, the process of life struggles, because in order to understand the good, you have to go through. You gotta go through some things, you know, to appreciate the good. And then you know, I wrote another chapter that's called I'm Not My Circumstances. Therefore, I refuse to stay the same, because people will look at you and they will put you in a box because of the things that you've done, and they will relegate you to that box, and that box is like death if you stay there. You know, if you continue to believe that you are what they say you are and you are who they say you are, you're never going to be who you were destined to
Right.
become, because you're too busy believing that you're who they say you are. So, you know, I got empowered, and I wrote a chapter called I'm Not My Circumstances. I ain't what y'all say. Therefore, I refuse to stay the same. So, you know, and it went a little bit further, you know, apology accepted, access denied. That's all about, you know, I forgive you, but I don't forget, you know.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
I had to break that whole thing down. And then I talked about how you've been affected but not infected. You know what I'm saying? To the point, because if you've been affected by it and you allow yourself to be infected by it, then you reach a place of unforgiveness. But if you can be affected without being infected, because people, they do things to try you, but the way you respond to them will ultimately determine how the outcome can be. You know, it could be positive or it could be negative, you know, and you just have to understand what type of work is at hand and how you're going to respond to it. So, you know, I started to write that chapter. From there, I started to write, but what if it's big? What if it's painful or worse? You know, because some people are like, yeah, I understand where you at. I understand how you can forgive your little thing. You know, they downplay
Right.
your hurt,
That's
you
right.
know. But this big, this one painful, this one worse than yours, you know. How do I forgive that? I'm like, look, I got something for you. My little sister, my little adopted sister, was murdered.
Mm.
She was 8 years old. She did not deserve that. She was tied to a radiator. You know, and I talk about it like openly. My first time really, you know, going in on the Christiana Glenn story. You know, she was murdered. You
Wow.
know, and she was a great little baby. She loved the Lord. We never had to spank her. She was phenomenal. Everything about this little girl was
Wow.
phenomenal. And to murder a child, you know, you got to be a different kind of person. And I was angry with the Lord. Like, I was angry with God. I said, God, you took a good one. Like, this is a good girl. We ain't had to spank her. We ain't had to do nothing. She just was the bomb.com, as perfect could be, like an angel here on earth. And I'm not saying that because she passed away. You could say, Christiana, yes, come and give me that, mommy, too. Okay. She was glad to be
Oh, man.
obedient. Just rare, you know, and like for her to get murdered, it broke my heart. It broke something within me. Something within me really was not altogether good after that. It was like I saw the world different. It's an evil world. You know, that's how I started seeing things. And it was like, so when you come to me and you say, but what if it's big? What if it's worse? What if it's painful? It don't get no more painful than murder. You know what I'm saying? It don't get no more painful than somebody being snuffed out, an innocent baby being snuffed out, you know, and violated and killed, you know, and starved to death for days, hair patches pulled out, you know, broken bones, broken leg.
Oh my
Like
God.
it don't get any worse, you know, in my book. And I'm like, you know,
This,
to
this, this
witness
attack
that.
created a greater compassion for you.
Right, right. And it was like, you know, for God to heal my heart from that. Like, cause I wanted the person thrown under the jail. It got to a point where my family stopped coming to court because they couldn't take it no more. But I was like, I'm gonna see this through. I'm gonna see the law through. I want her to get the maximum time. I want this person to serve forever and ever and ever. And the more I pressed for the time for that person to suffer behind bars, the more the Lord began to work with me and start to show me. Like, you
Mm,
know, because in his eyes, that all sin is the same.
right.
We categorize it.
You're
He
right.
don't,
Right. Sin
you
is sin.
know. And the more I began to heal, I started to have compassion because I started to understand the background of what this person went through, not exempting them by far, because I learned that it's not my job. It's not my job to be unforgiving towards you. That's between you and God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it hurt me. But what happened was the biggest thing that came out of it, right? And it's going to probably blow everybody's mind in the room, is I learned that I became unforgiving to that person for killing her because of the dangers of attachment, right? So one of the things that happens within the Black communities, especially, is we get attached. Somebody died, we're like, oh, Ray, God, he gone, Jesus, take me back. You know, we
Right.
do all of that, all of that. You know, we don't do nothing for them while they're alive, but we know how to cut up, you know,
Right.
at a coffin. And then you see like the other communities, like the Caucasian communities, they're like, oh yeah, John, thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming. He was great. He's in heaven. Yeah. God's good. He's good. All right. Yeah. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, Bob, we see it. Thanks for, and you like, he ain't even love John. He ain't
Right.
even love John. Why? Because he not acting crazy over the coffin. He not yelling. He not screaming. And God revealed something to me. He said, you know, the problem with the people is that they love each other like property rather than properly.
Mm,
They don't love each other properly. They love as an attachment. They don't
wow.
love they don't love for connection, because when they love
Wow.
for connection, they know how to disengage. They know how to disconnect without the pain. But when they love for attachment, they can't fathom the idea of losing anything because they're attached to it. And God doesn't want us to be attached to anything. He wants us to be connected to everything, but attached to nothing other than him. And I was like, wow,
That's deep.
wow.
That's
Yeah,
deep.
and so I begin to heal. I begin to heal from this thing, from my little sister getting murdered. I begin to heal from that because I was like, you know what? I love her, Lord, and I want to love her right, like to the point where I'm not heartbroken, like, oh, he gone, he gone, he gone. Like, you know, you should not be. My dad died, what, 7 years, it's going on 7 years now that he passed away. And it was to a point where, you know, even though he died, I was okay. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, I was okay. It hurt, it stung, I cried, I'm good. You know, but I didn't love to a place of attachment where it was like, oh God, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He gone. You see some people, they still posting, I miss my mother like crazy. I miss my father like crazy. Honey, you're attached. And anybody would be attached to their mother and father. But what we need to pray for is connection. We need
Pray
to
for
pray for
connection, not
connection.
attachment.
Right, because when you come, you came empty, you came with nothing. When you leave, you're leaving with nothing. Stay connected, not attached. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I started to talk about the dangers of attachment, like how we get here, how we got to this place in the first place of unforgiveness, because we got so attached to somebody that they hurt us. Now we can't forgive. If you were connected, it wouldn't matter. It'd be like, you know what? I expect that. I expect that of that person. You know, it is what it is. I forgive them and we can move on. People think you're crazy when you can forgive like that, but that's how the Father forgives. That's
Right.
how God forgives. He's not a he loves you. You know what I'm saying? You're his, so
Absolutely.
he can love you like his property because he made you. You know, but the thing about his love is that he has such a connection with you that he knows how to forgive without the attachment. He said what? He'll cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. He didn't think about what you did yesterday. He loved you with an everlasting love. You feel me? So he knows how to be connected to you. So we got to learn how to do that. That's another step. It's just being connected and not so attached to the point of no return, to where when someone hurts us, we can't forgive, you know? So, and then from there, you know, it was talking about, please pass, go, collect, forgiveness. And I kind of correlated to one of my favorite games, which was Monopoly. And I talk about how, you know, Monopoly, for those of us that are visual, you know, how that works, you know, with forgiveness, you know, how sometimes, you know, you land in jail, you know, certain unforgiveness can land you there. And,
Right.
you know, I begin to break those things down. And then I talk about past pain, which is, you know, pain that you incurred at an age long ago, people that's holding
Right.
60, 70-year-old pain. I talk about that as well. And then after that I talk about shaking it off, how to shake that off, all of that. You know, free your
So
mind
tell me real quick,
and the rest will
where,
follow.
where can people get this book from?
They could get it from Barnes and Nobles. They could get it from
Mm-hmm.
Strand. They can get it from Books a Million. Um, they can get it on Amazon.com. Everywhere that books are sold, you can get both of them.
All right. So they can get it everywhere. Listen, because it sounds like a powerful book. And
Yes.
it's probably one of the hidden gems that, you know, that the enemy does not want anybody to have. Because as long as you be stuck in forgiveness, turmoil continue to go and family feuds continue to happen, like, you know,
You went
generational.
back down again.
Can you hear me now?
It's low.
Okay. Real low? All right, let's hold on. Let me bring you back in. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Technical difficulties, y'all. Let's see what's going on here. See if we can get it. See if she's back in the room. Bear with us, y'all. Bear with us.
I'm back again. Okay.
All right, there we go. So
Yeah.
sound good, right?
But yes,
It
but
seems
they
like
could
it
get
does
it
this every time.
everywhere.
Every time it's time to almost end the live, and
Mm-hmm.
it's
Like it's like they're warning to us, like, all right, you
right,
have a little bit of time.
right. We got
But yeah,
like seven
they
minutes
could get
left.
it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Books are sold, and it has a workbook in it. So you, without your permission, you actually become a part of the book. You remember the movie The Never Ending Story?
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's one of my favorites, and so I do that to y'all. So
Yeah,
anybody that read that book, it starts out very much about me, but it becomes very much about you, and it's one of the most fascinating parts to this book, is because I can't answer questions about you. Only you can do that, and once you become a part of the workbook, you become the story.
wow.
So
So
it's pretty cool.
in writing this book, even though, you know, God allowed you to go through the steps and start revealing things to you that brought you to this the healing point in your life, um, in writing it, did it give you even a deeper healing?
Yes, that's when yo. Let me tell you, that's when I learned to forgive. I only thought I did before, but I didn't have the complete concept. You know how you go to church, right? And you know you get excited about all of the things that's happening, and you want to give your life to the Lord, and so you walk down there like, yes, you know, I want to give my life to the Lord, and you do the hard work, but you don't do the
Right.
hard work. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That don't happen so much later till you've been through some things, backslid about 59,000
Right. Right.
times, and and then you're ready now. Like, Lord, I'm ready now, And so
Right.
it was that kind of thing. So many, I was just going through the motions and like saying, I forgive you, I forgive you. And I believe that it was from a true place, but I don't believe that true forgiveness had really taken place within me to a place of where I was whole, because I wasn't whole. I was still broken.
Right.
I just wanted to be free so much that I'm like, I forgive you, because I wanted the greater good, so I wanted to forgive. But I know that after I did this right here, because like, the first book, it was like exposing others. This book was just straight exposing me. Like, it was just straight exposing me to a point of rawness to where, I forgave, and it helped so many other people to just be real with themselves and forgive as well.
Wow, that's deep. Like in itself, just the power of forgiveness. Anybody growing up in the church or anybody having any kind of spirituality knows that forgiveness is one of the key things to for healing. Because you can't continue to go forward if you're still looking in the rear of your mirror. So I'm glad that you actually put that book out. You said it's sold everywhere. She said Barnes and Noble,
Definitely some
Amazon.
technical
Hmm.
technical difficulties is happening. It's frozen,
It's frozen.
freezing,
Okay. All
free
right,
up.
we go. I'm
It's
gonna shut it
spinning.
down. I'm gonna shut it down anyway right now, Chanel, because I just want to get into your compassion most on this next one real quick. Want to get into it. I'm not gonna hold you not too much longer. Want to get into your company because you cover
Okay.
a lot of gems. We probably could go about 5 hours just off of
Oh
everything
my God.
more. It's a whole book in itself. So let's do this because we got like 5 minutes left. I'm gonna shut it down. We're gonna go to part 3. We're gonna just wrap this portion up. And then we're going to go into your compassion, Moss.
Got it.
Sounds good?
Got it.
All
Yeah.
right. Be right back.
All right.